Later. Okay, welcome at this Farm Digital webinar. I see that we are already in the chat sharing who we are, so that's good. My name is Jannie Gonuit, and I will be your host today. And we will present and discuss several of the findings of the Farm Digital project. Farm Digital, an action research program. The focus of the program is to create a situation in which data only needs to be entered once and can be shared easily. We want to achieve this by standardizing data and by developing and implementing an independent digital platform for a lot of people to use. More information on our deliverables you can find on FarmDigital.nl. Currently, we are at the finish of the project and we want to share the outcomes. Today, we focus on the developed business models and we will get answers on who picks up the bill for digitizing farm compliance data. Two project members will present their findings. First of all, Marieke de Ruyter de Wildt. She is Director of AgriPlace and she wants to smarten data management on farm. AgriPlace makes compliance to food standards easy. They minimize the administrative burden for farmers by developing smart mobile applications and reusing data between years and certificates. Marieke dreams about paperless farms. Lange is a senior scientist at Wageningen Economic Research. Her research is focused on economic analysis and modeling of key issues in agri-food chains. She is fascinated by the way information and institutions influence each other in an increasingly digitalizing world. So, during the presentation, several polls will pop up on your screen. You can easily ask your questions in the chat arena, and we see that that is working properly because everybody has shown their who they are already. At this moment, I want to give the floor to Marieke to tell us more about how to make compliance made more easy.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, let's kick off. I have to inform you that I haven't seen all the names of the participants, but I'm going to revert to that in a later moment. We are about compliance made easy. I'm going to tell you three things. First of all, the problem. Second, the solution as we have it today. And third, really the how we get that solution out there to the farmers. The problem starts, unfortunately, and here and with us. The consumers, as we know them,
Yes.
okay, there we are. The problem is actually us consumers, a very large growing middle class that has a lot of demand and a lot of requirements from the food that we eat. It needs to be sustainable, it needs to be healthy, it needs to be safe, it needs to be environmentally friendly. What that ends up to is actually this picture. We see a figure of a farm and a lot of labels, a lot of certificates surrounding the farmer. In real life, it actually looks like this. This is a picture taken in Holland. We've been a lot in Spain, in South Africa, in Ghana, in Costa Rica, within the context of this project. And this is actually the same picture could have been taken in one of these other countries. So a farmer trying to meet the demands of us as consumers, ends up dealing with a lot of paperwork. We've done research in South Africa with quite a bit of detail, and that showed if you zoom in on the picture and you look very carefully, you can see that it takes an average grape farmer in South Africa about 2 months of full-time work to prepare for these 3 labels. So CISA is a social label, BRC is a British retail label, and Global Gap is a food safety label. That's 2 days of full-time work, basically really looking and searching for information, digging on that table that we saw just now. That's the problem that we dove and we dive and we continue diving into. The solution that we have is called AgriPlace. It's a farm platform. The farm platform does a few things. We say that we do 4 things, but unfortunately we do a little bit more than 4 things. One key area is putting all the certificates and all the labels into one platform. So whereas, as you saw the picture before, with the 3 big lines to each certificate, it implies really 3 different streams of information from farmer to eventually the consumer. We bundle that into the one platform as we have it today. The second thing is that we make things easier. Easier is always the most difficult part to do. We don't invent anything new, but we make what there is easier and actually more easy to use. The third thing that we do is reuse, and reuse sounds great. In practice, it's very complicated. So we want to reuse data that farmers collect on the platform for the different certificates. The fourth bundle of activities that we do at AgriPlace is giving control to the farmer. And this is a very interesting aspect, I think, for the theme of today, of the business model that we have behind it. Because how can we keep control at farm level rather than have it at any other place except from the farm? Now, this is not the same table, but it is actually the same farmer that we saw previously. He is very much a smiling, happy farmer, released of all paperwork. But to be honest, this is actually really, we see this happening. So it's not nice for some people who do their own tax work. Tax paper preparation is very similar to what you have to do for your certificate paper preparation. One thing is on the platform using your own devices, and that includes as well the mobile upload. So this is an example of how we make it easier. By taking a picture with your phone, you can upload evidence pieces that you actually have to upload for the label or certificate. Currently, we have 3 user groups. We have individual farmers, like the one you just saw, and we have cooperatives. In, for example, Costa Rica or Ghana or Spain, cooperatives are a much more common way of organizing productivity. And we have to have a facility on the platform that deals with a more complex structure. The other user group are the auditors. The reason why you see the circle is still open is that the auditors, the service as we have it, is still very basic. So it's not a fully fledged service as we would like to have it. 3 user groups, and really we group the individual farmer and the cooperative farmer together. So it's farmers and auditors, basically. You see here a small list of the impact as it has today. We did an impact study. I think we started an impact study within FarmDigital, and we are now extending it with some more researchers to get a more detailed picture of what is really the impact of a farm platform in the enterprise, in the farm company. I'm not going to repeat what's here. I'm sure you can read it. This is, I think, the critical question and why you tuned in. So we have a problem, and that is a lot of paperwork because of a lot of consumer demands. And we have a solution, and that is the platform that helps you digitize and spend less time in the preparation to get your certificate and labels in order. Now, we had some investments from the Dutch government in terms of the FarmDigital project, and we have a good service today. Now, the question is, how can we have this service in the air for the long term of our consuming lives? And before I come to the answer of who currently pays, it's good to see who's involved in the development and in actually the business model. It's a busy picture. This is the Netherlands. I think we have a few people in the room from the Netherlands who have been involved. Can people confirm that? Who recognizes him or herself in being or having been involved? Is there anybody? I think this is a no. I'm looking at the moderator. This is a no. Good. Okay. So what you see here is off the line. You see supporting services to the value chain. In the middle, you see the value chain layers, and below you see the sector organizations. Really. So above on the left, you see, and this is for the viewer left as well. You see a few standard setting companies, you see auditing companies, and you see other solution providers in the technical area. In the middle, you see cooperatives, you see retail partners, and below you see, for example, research, banking, and sector. This picture is a crowded picture. They definitely will recognize the need for a platform as we have it, but do they pay? In South Africa, the picture is different, similar in terms of the type of participants and the type of experts involved. But again, there are different people and there are different organizations. Key question is, do they pay? Well, we see that we have one payer, and that is the user. And the user, as we have it today, is the farmer. It's the farmer, the individual farmer, and it's the cooperative. Auditors are starting to pay soon, as when we have the service fully fledged, developed, and well, I think ready to go to market. It's a business model. It's a very healthy business model because our end user is the one who's paying. So the farmer, we make something for the farmer, and it's the farmer that pays us. Is it a sufficient business model? I don't think so, because we need to go faster. If we just develop based on the income as we generate it today, we will have a development track, but it will be vigorous but slow. And we're looking for more interactive and faster ways to be able to develop more new functionalities on a shorter term, because we think that the problem of farms not being digital is too big of a problem. So I want to hold it there. I think I'm sure we haven't told a lot of things, but the critical issue here on the table is the business model behind it. So.
Okay, thank you, Marieke, for sharing your thoughts on how to make compliance made easy. When you have questions to Marieke, please ask them through the chat. And I believe Marieke also has a question for the viewer, because we want to see what your thoughts are on the topic. So I opened the poll. You can answer the poll, and perhaps it's good, Marieke, that you give us some background on this poll question.
Yes. So as I said, we need to go faster. We want to go faster, but we also think if we want to benefit I think the production of sustainable, healthy, durable goods, good food, we need to do more. Now, we currently see 4 options, and we need your help in terms of focusing on the option with the greatest potential. So I've put them out. The first one is not America first, but a big first. Big first means big farmers first. So means that we would only focus on the large capital intensive farm for whom the bill paying is an easy thing. Downside of it causes what we call mission drift. So if we focus on the big large farms, what do we do with the smaller medium farms? The second point is, and this is for me difficult to read, it's sell data, invert the business model. Do not just sell the service as we develop it for a fee-based business model. Forget about that. Dish out the service for free. I think there are quite a lot of apps, even in farm registration, that have that model. You give away the service and you sell data. Downside again is mission drift possibilities, where actually what then will happen is that we will develop towards those paying for the data. Is that the farmer or is it not the farmer? Another issue is an issue of trust. If we have a data-driven business model, what does that do with the trust in terms of our current users? Third option is more bills. Send out more bills, get more people paying and sharing the bill. This would involve, for example, the retail, the traders, more auditing companies. Again, it's a challenging model because, first of all, retailers now say, well, we see the problem, it is necessary, but it's not necessarily us who are going to pick up that bill. So how do you get them motivated? Is it the consumer that should chip in on this problem? Fourth option is actually getting investors in, getting foreign capital into the company. I don't know how many of you have experience with so-called impact investors, or even I think for governmental investment funding, the same issue applies. Equity wants a buyout, so they want a quick sell. So they go for a different, the choices that we make in developing the platform would be different because of their different stakes. We see these 4 options. What would be the best one?
Okay, thanks for explaining the 4 options. I will keep it shortly open, the poll, and then we will see what the results are. I have a question for you, Marieke, from Guido Hamoun from CRV. Percentage of the farmers are using AgriPlace in the different markets, and how big is that the adoption?
The percentage of so say we have Spain, we have in Spain we have 5,000 cooperatives, 1 million farmers. How many of these are currently using it? Is that the question? Yeah. Okay. So in Spain we are just about to work with a few large cooperatives. I would say today, okay, let me put it differently. By the end of this year, our ambition is to have at least, I would say 20% of the food and vegetable producers on the platform.
Okay. And is the business model the biggest hurdle in the adoption, or shall we look at the results from the poll to see what is the best fast track?
Let's look at the results.
Yeah, we will look at the results. So the poll will be closed in 3, 2, 1 seconds. Let's see. And I have to share the results now. Yeah, you can scroll down in your overview, and then we will see that more bills and the big first options are the most chosen options. 60% says more bills, and 60% of the group says big first. And then sell data and investment both have 8%. So I'm curious, more bills. We want to make compliance easy. Please react.
Yeah, very interesting, because I think both imply that the farmer remains the paying client, which I think is very comforting news. That's the model as we've seen it so far, because the moment you get your source of money from elsewhere, you start do different things. Because in the end, we have a debate on this with many organizations, but in the end, we're still convinced that those who pays is really the one who decides on what's going to happen. So I'm very happy that these two are still farmers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a feasible track. So we would need to focus much more on a particular segment of farmers, and secondly, include more of the user groups in the paying section.
Okay, and I see, based on that, Andrei Mertel says, well, I see it also as a bit in a chicken egg problem. They also did research and they found you need to go parallel, multi-stakeholder, e.g. Big and bills.
Yeah. Yes, big and bills. Well, that's let's go big and bills. I think that suits the B&B.
Okay, B&B.
Exactly.
Okay, well then after the B&B, let's stop the poll for now, because also Josine Kapma says, well, what about new business models? Sell data but in service of farmers. And I think that's a nice bridge to the presentation of Lange. So thank you, Marieke. We will see you after the presentation of Lan back for some more discussion and questions. And for now, I want to give the floor to Lan for her presentation on business models for digital platform.
Thank you very much, Jan Hugo. I'm really happy that someone mentioned new business models, and I think that's exactly what my talk will be about monetization in value networks. And it's a great honor to share my research findings in the past few years on digital platforms. My talk will have 4 parts. First of all, as economists, I would like to share with you the general trends in the current economy to see what is going on, and then some theoretical insight on business model. I'm going to show you the key elements of platform business, in particular, what we call platform business model. And then we're going to zoom in, especially on monetization. How do we make money from digital platforms? The economy, the rise of platforms, I think is one of the most prominent features in our current economy. It is driven by the development of digital technology, of information technologies. What we see is that typically different economies have developed along 2 dimensions. Different organizational models tend to achieve economies of scale or economies of scope. In ancient times, because of the limitation of communication or transportation, most businesses have developed along economies of scale. But with digital and with informational technologies, it is becoming more and more easier to connect different parts of the world, and we see that more and more companies are trying to benefit from both economies of scale and economies of scope. And that explains the rise of platform as business and organizational model. What does this entail? So this platform revolution, as some call it, is not only happening in the general economy, but also in agri-food. What we see is that there are many different platforms, digital platforms, evolving and developing. And we see that platforms, although they're very diverse, we do see 2 general directions. We see platforms are developing towards the provision of basic utility, in the sense of collecting different data to enable other business partners to make use of it. We also see platforms that are more focused on developing services and applications. And I think within FarmDigital, AgriPlace is more focused on developing applications and services. Then I'm going to show some theoretical insight on business model. What is a business model? I think everybody's talking about business model. There's actually, I think, hundreds of different definitions. Some call it business model is actually a term of art. What I think the one definition I like particular is that business model is a way in which an organization creates, delivers, and captures value in different economic, social, and other contexts. What I like about this definition is that it says business model, it is not something static, it's not something that you can draw, it is a process, it is a verb, several verbs. It entails creation, delivering, and capturing of values. So what is about platform business model? What makes it different? Well, we see that in many common discussions on business models is quite often they assume a quite linear process underlying business model. You make something, you add value to it, you sell to clients, you get a margin. So that's very linear thinking, and typically also reasoned from one single firm. That I would call it a firm-centric business model. What is changing in the platform economy is that more and more business models are actually focusing on a network around it, that I call a network-centric models. That we see the business models behind companies like Uber and Google and Amazon. And in a network-centric business model, very important driving force of the value creation is network effect. So there you come also, I think, from the discussion on multi-sided networks. It's very important to connect different business actors, different roles in the network. So that's some theory about business model, especially network-centric business model. So what are the key elements in platform business? In this picture, I show 6 key elements of the platform business. It is very important to consider platform business and more than monetization. Before you get to think about monetization, you actually need to think about the architecture of the platform, governance, ownership, and how to launch it, and especially how to grow a platform. Platform typically has a life cycle of starting, growing, and increasing till its maturity. And monetization is just one aspect of it. But I'm not going to go through every aspect of it, and I believe you can find a detailed description in the deliverables of the project. So today we are really going to zoom in the aspect of monetization. How do you make money, especially for digital platforms like AgriPlace? How do you generate revenue? But still, just some quick glance at other aspects. The aspects of, for example, the first aspect is architecture. When you start to design a digital platform, so what are the key aspects to consider? I think people tend to forget the platform is not only a product, just you set there, you sell it. It is actually a new way of organization. It's the key feature of platform is that it tends to enable interaction between producers of data or other services and consumers of other of data or services. The key to a platform is that in the design, you have to consider how to generate this interaction between producers and consumers so that through their interaction, value can be generated. And value goes beyond a monetary value. So it can be, typically can be fun, fame, or fortune. Think of anything that's valuable to different stakeholders. And the key to a platform is to enable the interactions between producers and consumers to generate those values. And sometimes you also have some actors who can at the same time be producer and also consumer of different services or products. And in the design and architecture platform, it's very important to realize a platform is more than technology, more than information technology. It is also about the way people interact with each other. So do not forget that it's about an organizational model. So it's very important for the design of platform to conduct a very good stakeholder analysis to see what exactly are their roles and interests and stakes and on the platform, why are they using it. And governance is also commonly mentioned. For platform, it's good to realize that we are considering governance not only of the platform itself, but also considers data governance. So it's about clearly defining what are the obligations and what are the rights and what are the liabilities for different stakeholders involved, and how to value different products and services. So I'm not going to go into detail into this because I think these are commonly discussed issues. If they merit, I think a webinar in its own right, but it's good to keep in mind that governance is a very important issue for a platform. And then the ownership structure. Well, of course, that's the key issue when you consider business models. It matters greatly who owns the platform and who manages the platform. I think to consider ownership of platform, it's good to consider how open do you want to keep the platform in terms of openness in financing and openness in managing. So there are different combinations and different details to consider. In the case of AgriPlace, it has been chosen for a single owner platform, but financing model is still to be further defined. We can discuss on that. But the choice of ownership has can pose constraints on the choice of financing models and revenue models. There's something good to consider beforehand. So these are different options. And then I think after the design phase, it's good to consider how to launch a platform. So where do you get the first users? I see in a discussion that the dilemma of chicken or egg was already mentioned. So for platform, one of the key challenges is how do you get users on board? So without a user, a platform is worthless, no matter how advanced the technologies are. So it's good to consider in the launch of platform how to attract the first users. And in an excellent book called Platform Revolution, I think there's a list of strategies and actions that can be taken to overcome this chicken and egg dilemma. So I think I'm not going to repeat them. I would strongly advise those who are interested to check it out. But suffice to say that it's good to consider how to get users, and that might have implications for the way you define the pricing strategy and revenue strategy. For example, it can make sense to offer the service in the beginning, in the launching phase, for free in order to attract users. That's something to keep in mind. And in the life cycle of the platform, you typically see that the strategies and services, the pricing strategies can evolve. So in the launching phase, you might consider offering services and use access free to some users. Of course, that cannot go on forever. So, but it is crucial to have an established user base. So once you have a stable user base, a community, and the platform is growing well, and then you can start consider other strategies. So it's good to adapt a business model along the way, along the life cycle of the platform. And then now we come to the business part. How do you conduct the business through a platform? There are a lot of examples or discussions on e-business models or e-commerce models on the web. It's all functioning through the internet. So you see, I put here 9 examples. Or within every category, there are more detailed ones. We don't need to read, but it's good to know that these options are quite well described and with different literature. Also, the article I put here. And also, if you if you zoom in every category, you can see more options. But those are the things that can be considered during the development of a platform. But but every platform has its unique features. But I think to get to the core of platform business is really to understand what the platform does with the data. In the case of the compliance platform as AgriPlace, and I think it's good to reflect a moment on the way what exactly the value of the compliance data or farm data in general can have or can be generated. What I described here, you can see, is a growing ladder that shows the increasing advancing of the value of data. In the first phase, I think the very basic use of data is to use data just as recording for recording purposes. You want to register how much seed or fertilizer was applied, but there it has very limited value because it's only kept for record. And it is only because when the data were analyzed to derive information from it, you can get more intelligence or knowledge, then more value will be created. So that is generally the first step of digitalization. So data become available on paper and digitalized, and when it becomes digitalized, it can be easily shared and analyzed using more advanced programs. And with this basic recorded information and knowledge, it can be further used further to enable automation and other businesses. So you see that with increasing added, when you're climbing up on the ladder, the value of data increases. And the form of value also changes. So the value from data can change from basic recording facility to really can be used as a commodity, or intelligence services can be used for governance purposes. It's a very typical example is certificate. It is actually built on basic records of use of farm inputs and management practices. In the end, it is summarized as evaluation, as a credit, and used for governance purposes in a way how buyers select a supplier, for example. So I think these are the options that can be used by a platform or any digital business to really think about the way to generate value from farm data or compliance data. So that can be different. That also explains why different platforms are using different business or value generating mechanisms. What we see that in a value ladder, the first steps, sorry, the first, not going well. The first few steps, this is going step towards. The first few steps, like making, recording a basic usage or information, can be done practically on every individual firms. But when data are used for governance or commodity purposes, you necessarily involve a network of actors. You cannot do it alone because it involves exchange of values, exchange of information. And in that case, value is generated in a network of actors with different interests, different products or services or demand for information. And that collection of network, I call it value networks. In this picture, it's a very simplified picture. I show how the networks, how the value network for a compliance or a certification system would look like. I show here the green lines, the exchange of information. So people derive knowledge or other information from data exchange. So that's the information flow. And the blue lines are showing the revenue stream. So a farmer sells products to trader, a trader to retail. So there are the revenue exchanges. There are also some gray lines. It's very difficult to see, but those gray lines they also convey values that are not commonly expressed in money, but they are values. You can consider them as trust, power, or transparency. Those are the values that are currently not or only partly capitalized or expressed in value. But these understanding this value network or the value networks is very important to design a business model for platform, because a platform, when you put a platform into this value network, you will change the way different actors interact with each other, and also it will create different value exchanges. So that's good to realize. So understanding this value network is only the first step. The next step is, okay, how do we generate the revenue of the platform? I list several options here. Very commonly, charging transaction fee is one way to generate revenue. In the case of a compliance platform, transaction fee can be understood like a compliance platform connects an auditor and a farmer so that they can exchange the compliance data. And that way you offer a service for those partners. You can charge a fee for that. You can also charge for access to data. For example, traders or retail, they are typically quite interested in farm data, more detailed. So retail, for example, may want to know more than just whether a farm is certified or not. So they want to have access to more detailed data. So in that case, you can consider charge those parties for access to data. And sometimes you can also charge for not only for access, but also for enhanced access. So typically auditors, for example, they have already access to paper-based data, but you can charge them for having access to more digitalized, structured data, or enhanced curation in the sense that you help improve the data quality by making data more structured or more verified, also other services. But these are the key well-known options to generate revenue from data. But it's very easy to forget that without users, in the case of platform compliance platform, do not have the data. So it's very important before considering monetization to consider how to attract users. And I think it's a very useful slogan to remember that users first and monetization later. So that has implications for the way you design a pricing strategy. So in the case of compliance platform, so coming back to the discussion we had just now in the presentation of Marieke, who should pay for the compliance platform? I think a very intuitive answer would be, okay, the farmers and auditors, they're using the platform, so they should pay. But is that really the case? I mean, if we look at the whole value network, it is true that the platform can help farmers to reduce their administrative burden, but are there also other values generated in the network? Can we capitalize on that? So in that sense, we need to understand whether there are other partners who are also benefiting from this increased digitalized and compliance data. And the third party would be cooperatives, because we understand during our research we have spoken to many parties in the network. I think I'd like to take this opportunity to thank those partners as well. So you understand that actually with the platform, it also offers quite great value to farmers organizations, because now they have an overview of their members, and because they have better insight in the performance or in production information on their members, they can also offer better service to their clients, for example, the traders or retail. So it makes sense to consider a cooperative as a party to help also finance the platform. But I think farmers and cooperatives and auditors, they are still the direct users of platform. If we look further in the value chain, we see also other parties who will benefit from this improved compliance data. And we see that the traders, they have better insight or better access to compliance data. And also retail, they have better insight. So if they benefit from that, could we also send a bill to, could the platform also send a bill to them? So there, I think that's a very interesting topic to discuss, is also in a pool. Is there a way to design a mechanism to use so-called cross-subsidization? Cross-subsidization means that the profits you generate from one activity or from one customer are used to pay for the usage or the cost of other activity or user. So in this value network, if we see the major value would be eventually at the far end of the value chain, could we use the profit value generated there to finance or subsidize the direct users of the platform in order to accelerate the development of platform business? So that is in question. So in my view, I think although farmers and auditors are direct users of the platform, they do benefit but their benefits are, I think, comparatively smaller than those partners in the value chain. So it makes sense to explore options of cross-subsidization. So that is some theoretical insight and also some findings from our research. I think some key messages from the research project and our research in general are, first of all, a platform business must be network-centric in a way that you have to understand the value network, not only focusing on product, a single platform or a single user. And then it's very important to enable the interactions between different users or actors in your value network in order to generate value for others. And then last but not least, for a platform, very crucial to have users first before considering different monetization options. In that sense, you have to consider how to attract users by offering incentives and making the resistance lower, making it easier. So thank you very much. And I made use of some references in preparing this talk and also our research. So two books are quite relevant. The first one is A New Oil and shows a number of options to generate value from data, and also a great book, Platform Revolution. It explains all the mechanisms underlying platform business model, and some web sources that can be consulted. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Nam. And I'm really curious as to your presentation because a lot of people can benefit. And I saw that we have to climb the ladder, but who's in the lead of climbing that ladder?
Yeah. I think to understand that, it's good to understand where the pain lies at this moment, I think. So at the moment, it varies a lot in different countries. In countries where records do not even exist, so there are the first letters, of course, the first mile problem. The farmers need to, keep records. In countries where data or farm input users are already maintained or are kept in different digital softwares, I think there the first letter would be the second layer, is to derive information and to connect different data sources. So I think who's the first to climb the ladder will be very different in different contexts. It depends on the level of digitalization, the level of also other the current ICT landscape. Okay. There's no one standard answer.
Okay, then I believe you also have a question for your audience, so I will get your poll. Can you clarify a bit, Paul, before people are answering it?
Yes. My full question is that for using such a compliance platform, most people would consider, okay, farmers are direct users of the platform, so they should pay for it. But in my view, keeping in mind of the value network and where the values are generated, I think the farmers should not actually pay for using the compliance platform, because they are generating value, positive effects for other users in the network, and I think they should be rewarded, at least be encouraged to use the service for free because they are actually creating value for others. So that is why I created this pool, because I believe that farmers, although they are direct users, theoretically they should not really pay for using that, because other people would be reaping or receiving more benefits from it. I think farmers actually should be rewarded for their service by making compliance data available and also potentially valuable to other other actors in the network.
Okay.
I'm curious to know how the audience think about this.
I will clarify a bit for the audience, because when you have filled in pay or be rewarded, please click on enquête beëindigen. It's a Dutch system, sorry for that, during this international webinar. But I want to close the poll within 5 seconds. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And let's see what's happening. Okay, I think something went wrong with the poll, so please give your answer through the chat. And
they don't sum up to 100%.
What do you say? No, I see that I'm in the wrong way. Let's see here. Farmers should be rewarded. I get one. Pay. So. Pay again. They should be rewarded. Rewarded. Pay. It looks like a bit 50-50, 40-60. And is that something you also experience in the market, that is really diverse? Who to pay, who to be rewarded?
Yes, I think during our research, I think we have spoken to numerous stakeholders. You really see that opinions are quite divided, because if you think in the traditional linear way of business models, the user who pays, it's very easy to come to the conclusion that farmers should pay, because that makes their life easier. So I think it will be a transition towards a new business model. That will take some time, but eventually, I hope more people will start to see why a farmer should be rewarded instead of being.
And somebody says rewarded, but the question is how? Do you have ideas how you can reward a farmer?
Yes. I think there are generally direct and indirect ways to reward farmers. The direct way, of course, you can pay them for the value generated because of bigger markets or better service, better prices, so they're directly rewarded. Indirectly, you can also reduce the cost of audit and cost of certification and cost of other transaction costs. So in that way, they are compensated. Their costs are lower, so they are rewarded for their efforts in putting information and using the platform.
Okay. So somebody has an idea, involve them in the platform and become co-owner if possible.
Yes, so that depends on how open you want to keep the platform ownership. If you want, you could opt for a joint venture, a shared platform. That is very logical choice to involve them and share the revenue that's generated from the platform. And I think that's even a quite sensible option.
Okay. And then I'm curious because we have Marieke here. She told us something about in practice. So let's see how Marieke looks at this point. Reward or pay? Or is that too sensitive?
No, it's not. No, I definitely think that farmers should definitely pay for the same thing I said previously. If you pay, you by definition own. Because me as a consumer or if I pay somewhere, I'm not happy, I have a vote. So by paying, you actually become already owner of the product. That is, I think, the beauty of the economy as we have it today. Yeah. So yeah, let me read my answer for that.
Okay, very good. So the reward is less work and hassle. Let's see, that's worth money. So that's also what Lange told us. Or pay with your data. So a lot of options are coming by. So that's very good. And let's see, because we say, well, the reward is then perhaps already in using a system, but Marieke also told us from, we have the first experiences with farmers in Spain, and I believe also other countries, but we can say perhaps those are the early adopters. How to make that group bigger in a fast way?
Exactly, yes. There's a lot of discussion in what I understand as the ag-tech community, the agricultural technological community, where it's easy, and I say that these are big, it's fairly feasible to get the first early adopters on board on the digital road forward. It's really difficult to get the big community of farmers digital. And something that we are discussing, but really we don't have the fast track defined. I think there is a governmental role here as well. How we can inform, engage the larger community to become digital and to see the digital road as a future that is here yesterday already. So I think its government should be much more involved, and I think farmers should really have a digital. And when I say farmers, I mean bigger cooperatives, farmers with power, farmers with influence. Make it an agenda of the sector itself.
Okay. And I see create ICT vouchers that government would be subsidizing.
I think that would be a really good idea. I'm very hopeful that we have government on the line here, but.
Okay.
And I think that's one way to cross-subsidize it, because government would also benefit from better compliance data if they have access to it. That will improve food safety and food, transparency, traceability of food information.
Yeah. Another issue is what I see very clearly. We have a lot of farms who are digital in terms of having a lot of ITC in the business, but not in the administration. So they will have drones or they will have high-tech technology on farm, but I would say on the front end of the farm, it's not a very sexy issue to digitize and subsidize the back end of the farm, the admin of the farm.
Okay. So I've got a question. Let me see. How can farmers be brought on board of all this? AgTech is hyping, but farmers are not sufficiently on board. So that's what we are already discussing, of course.
Yeah.
And
It's a concern. It's a real
Yeah.
concern, and I think we need much more focused effort to get the large farm community on this agenda.
And I was curious, we have various certificates in the market, a lot of paperwork. We saw also the picture of a table full of papers. And now the platforms are coming up. But is it then, when we look in 5 years, are there then 10 platforms and then we have the discussion, oh, how can those platforms be combined? Or does Farm Digital see that in a different way? And I'm looking at Lan to answer this one first.
Yes, I think currently there is already an ecosystem of different digital farm management systems and digital platforms. And I think it's not realistic to expect that all those platforms will be unified into one, one platform. Within FarmDigital, what we aim for is actually an open ecosystem. We try to develop the underlying information standards and data models so that different platforms can exchange, can be easily, data can be connected, exchanged through different platforms, so that farmers won't suffer from the login effects. So I think that is a healthy way to develop the business ecosystem. But a common infrastructure is very important to define, so that the way one platform defines a potato farm is the same as in another platform. So that would enable exchange or connecting information, data from different sources.
Okay. I think Marieke wants to add something to that,
Yeah.
but before that, we're going to the almost to the end of the webinar. So when you have a question, please put them in the chat, because then I can ask Marieke and Lan this question, and else we have to find other ways to do that. So Marieke, please add your comments.
Yes, yeah. I think what we are seeing is really, we are in a new area where we have roles defined, but nobody picks up the responsibility for that. Or responsibility lies with government, but lies with business to a large extent as well. And we need more orchestration in this. And I think therefore public-private partnerships are an excellent tool, but they need to move on. They need to get their hands dirty quickly.
Okay. And it looks like there are no questions coming up anymore. So I'm curious, do you want to add something, Lan, to the presentation or the discussion?
Perhaps one last remark. I think that it's an evolving ecosystem. It's good to share information with each other, understanding each other's interests and stakes, and I think that will eventually contribute to a better food ecosystem and information ecosystem.
Okay, thank you. And Marieke?
Yes, get in touch. We need you. We need really to get this agenda rolling faster. So please do get in touch with us.
Okay, thank you. So interaction, get in touch, and thank you all for watching this session, and Marieke and Lan for the presentations and discussion. You can find back the results of the Farm Digital program on FarmDigital.nl, and after this session you will get, I think that will be tomorrow or Friday, you get a link to this seminar, to this webinar, to look it back or share it with colleagues or other people that are interested. And also there will be the contact details of Marieke and Lan. Thank you all for watching, and see you in another webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.